Hello everyone and welcome to another session of AP Human Geography with Mr. Elrod. Today we're going to continue on in Unit 6, Industry and Economic Development. So today what we're going to do is we're going to continue on from our topic from our last video, which was the HDI, or the Human Development Index. In our last video we looked specifically at some of the economic indicator of the Human Development Index, and what exactly that looked like and how it correlated to the actual scores on development. And today we're going to look at the other three elements of the HDI, which are life expectancy, average education, and then expected education. So first we'll look at life expectancy, and then what I'm going to do is, after we talk about each one, we're going to go to the Gapminder website and we're going to look at the correlation between these indicators and level of development. So life expectancy, we discussed life expectancy back in Unit 2, and I would assume that you can understand kind of the connection between level of development and life expectancy. Of course, life expectancy is the number of years one can expect to live if they're born and raised in a particular country. So obviously, with a higher life expectancy, it's going to show a certain level of demographic development. Certainly, if a country has a higher life expectancy, they're going to have the country overall is going to be wealthier. The individuals are going to be wealthier. They're going to probably have, they will have greater access to health care, greater access to preventative care, probably better educated as well. When I say better educated, we're talking about being able to make educated decisions, healthy decisions for their lives, keep themselves out of unhealthy situations in terms of whether it's taking drugs or long-term smoking, or eating foods that are bad for you in large quantities and things like that. And so gaining access to the information so that people can make healthier decisions. The free time to go off and exercise and actually take care of your physical well-being, and certainly things like access to food. Just in general, the ability to access food so that you can sustain yourself over a lifetime. And so that's going to be a fairly simple indicator of development. The longer that people are living, we would assume that the better off the country is in terms of its development. So we'll go here to Hans Rosling's site, and we're looking at life expectancy on this chart as situated. Now this, again, I made mention of this before. It's income per person, GDP per capita. It's not development exactly, but it's a good correlation, and we've talked a little about that, so I'm not going to try and argue with you on anything. I'm just trying to do the best that I can in terms of create something that's a good correlation. So we see that obviously the greater the income per person, or GDP per capita, the higher the life expectancy. Now what you'll notice is that a lot of the countries are shifting higher and higher up. In fact, our lowest life expectancy, and this is 2012, is Lesotho at 48. And you'll notice that a lot of these African countries, due to various reasons, whether it's the HIV epidemic in South Africa over here, or various civil wars or whatever, have kept the life expectancy down in there. And that's one of the other things. Obviously, sometimes there's going to be not necessarily exceptions to the rule, but there are going to be exceptional things happening within a country that might cause its life expectancy to dip or to drop. And so you see this, and this is obviously very encouraging to us to see this many countries have life expectancies over the age of 50. Now I'm going to show you something, and this is something that Hans Rosling points out in some of his videos. If we zip all the way back to 1800, you see this all the way down here. The highest life expectancy is in, well, that's Iceland at 43. I've always heard it as the Netherlands. Right there at 40, 43. And so this is where our world was in 1800. But then if you just zip forward just 215 years or so, this is what the world looks like. No country has a life expectancy under 45, which is, we've obviously come a very long way, and that's obviously very encouraging to us, and we just want to continue on that trend. So that's life expectancy. Now we'll talk about average education. Average education is an indicator of social development. So with average education, we're looking at the average amount of time a person can expect. The average amount of time a person spends in school. One of the things you can do with a country is, if you look at the overall average education, you can then break it down and then also look at the different genders, or the sex, in terms of are boys spending longer time in school, or are girls spending longer time in school. Because one of the other indicators you look at development is gender equality, and one of those elements they look at is how long women are in school. And in the countries that are not as developed, typically women don't spend as long in school. And obviously with a longer average education, you get things like greater stability in society, which means that people are able to go to school. Their parents are able to send them to school. There's not disruption, whether it's war or natural disaster or whatever. The government is fairly stable and able to provide things like education. Typically, also, if you have a higher average education, there's going to be a more diversified economy, which means that it gives you a reason to go to school. If more people are going to school to get an education, that means that there are more jobs out there that require an education. There's no reason for a country whose economy is primarily based on primary industries for large percentage of the population to go to school. It might as well be just a small percentage of people who are going to go into some of those other economic fields. And so if there are no jobs available, really no point in spending all that time in school. So that can give us an idea of the economic level of development. Again, obviously at things like greater level of wealth in the country, the ability to afford the institutions, the infrastructure necessary, the teachers, the books, everything that goes into educating children. Not only that, the ability to let the children take time off, not take time off, but parents having the wealth, and the country having the wealth where the children don't have to work, so they're able to go to school. And of course that signals a certain level of wealth and development there. And again, typically this is also going to mean there are greater opportunities for advancement, greater opportunities for accumulation of wealth for the individuals who are able to go to school for longer. So if we take that and if we look at, again, we go here to the Gapminder, and if you never played around with this tool, it's pretty fun, interesting to look at these things. And so we have education. We'll go to mean years in school, and you can look at some of these different indicators. Let's see, we want, let's see, this gives us men, women percentage. Well, this isn't going to give it to me the way that I want it because it breaks it down to men and women. But we can let's see here. Let's go to literacy rate, and at there we go. Literacy rate, percentage of people ages 15 and above. So that'll give us a pretty good stretch in the society. And so again, and you'll notice this is a fairly positive graph as well. You'll notice that we have a fairly large proportion of the population in our world, or at least many countries in our world, where 90% and above of the population is literate. So again, that's a good indicator of economic and educational achievement. And again, you see some of the usual suspects kind of hovering down here in some of the lower areas like Mali, Chad, and other parts of sub-Saharan Africa. Okay, and then and I'm sure you've heard in the news some of the issues in Afghanistan and people getting education. Let's see if we can go back here, and we can let's see, that's gender equality. Not looking at that. Let's see here. So we go education, mean years in school, and then we can we might be able to look at this the different genders and see what it looks like and see if it's different. So let's see here, mean years in school, women 25 years and older. Okay, and so again, it kind of shows us some of the same indicators. So again, the lower level of development, the less time that women are going to be able to spend in school. The higher the level of development, the more time that women are able to spend in school. And so and one thing you can look at is the difference between the graph of women, and we can look at the graph of men and try to make a direct comparison. So we did women 25 years and older, now we'll do men 25 years and older. And it's not much better, but some of those countries that went from kind of down here to up here is kind of interesting. And again, that's going to be either it's a wealth issue or it's a culture issue where the culture doesn't allow for women to go to school for as long, or if at all. And so that's one thing you can investigate kind of individually and see that within the country. But even still, some of our lower countries, people are still going to school. And of course, this is men here now, and so we're talking going 6 years of school in India, China 7.7 years in school, and of course with our Western European countries, South Korea 13 years in school. And so again, the idea that we're all moving kind of in this general direction upward, even as countries maybe aren't getting incredibly wealthy, but we're still seeing some positive gains in those areas. So the last area of development we'll talk about today is the expected years of schooling. So very similar to the average years, but again, this kind of looks at it from a different perspective. It's the number of years you can expect to be in school if you were a part of that particular country. And so not necessarily the average years, looking at kind of the aggregate of everyone, but if I'm just an individual in that country, what are the number of years I can expect to be in school? Again, it shows a level of social development. It shows that there's a greater access to education for all individuals, or for the individuals in that particular society. And again, we talked about providing opportunities, greater opportunities. We're talking about educational opportunities, economic opportunities, and jobs, but also political opportunities in terms of getting an education, going to the political arena, and making a difference within a country. Obviously, education is important for all those things in the world today. So anyway, that's the last bit of our video that we have. I would really encourage you to go either to the UN HDI site or go to Hans Rosling's site, gapminder.org. Look at the various indicators that are a part of human development. Kind of play around with that and see how the different indicators are going to cause the graphs to change, and kind of get a better understanding of where we are in the world in terms of development, because things are actually probably a lot better than you might think, which is exactly the message that Hans Rosling tries to put out there. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave those in the comment box below. I hope you found this helpful, and I hope to see you next time.